Hi, everyone. I'm Spencer Donovan. I'm editor-in-chief of The Red and Black. We're an independent news organization covering UGA in Athens. So I want to thank you all for being here and just ask if you could please silence your cell phones and remain respectful to the candidates and the audience and the moderators throughout the event. So as you've been coming in, we've been asking for audience questions for our candidates. We'll have some time at the end. You can hand your questions to Charlotte. She has sticky notes that you can write them on and pens. If you don't have a pen, and then we'll go through those and ask them at the end. And first, I would just like to thank Cine for letting us have this venue here. It's great to just have an opportunity to have a debate between our public figures and let the voters hear from them directly. And so I will introduce our co-moderators. I'm from The Red and Black. We also have Dania Kalaji from The Red and Black. We have DJ Simmons from Athens-Clarke and Blake Aud from Flagpole. And as for our candidates, we have Mara Zúñiga here on the right, Kelly Girtz on the left, and Fred Moorman here in the middle. Benny Coleman withdrew from the race as of today, so he obviously will not be participating. And then Pearl Hall and Mykesha Ross were unable to participate. We did offer each candidate who wasn't able to be here the opportunity to share a message, and Mykesha left the following message, so I will just read that verbatim as she sent it to us. Mykesha said, "I would like to thank everyone who's been supportive. Sorry I cannot be there. I will continue doing my work in establishing a betterment for our city. We need to be the change we wish to see. Start holding government accountable for the things they say and promise. Hashtag vote like a boss, hashtag vote Mykesha Ross." Again, that is from Mykesha Ross, not from me. The Red and Black does not endorse any mayoral candidate. And so as for the rules, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question, and our timekeeper in front, Charlotte, will hold up a sign when time is up. She'll also hold up a 20 seconds remaining time. And we'll just switch up who answers each question, first, second, and third for each round. So to get into it, our first question is, what specific skills and experiences do you have that qualify you to be mayor? And Fred, let's start with you.
If I may suggest, I would suggest you get the same distance from that microphone because you're a little bit inaudible. Yeah, just try to maintain it.
Yeah, I'll try,
Yeah.
If you could hold the microphone in the middle too.
And hello.
Yeah, that's
yes, better. And could you repeat the explicit question, please?
Yeah, so the question is, what specific skills and experiences do you have that qualify you to be the mayor of Athens?
Okay. Well, I have been in Athens about 38 years. I received a graduate degree from the University of Georgia and continued my education. I am a dermatologist, a medical physician, and I've lived in Athens and seen the city change a lot. A lot of things have stayed the same, but many things have changed. Some for the good, some for the bad. I think we're honored to live in this world and in the United States. I have been to 38 countries, and when I travel, I'm so glad and ecstatic to be back home. I told a customs agent a few weeks ago when I returned from a month in Vietnam that I felt like I wanted to get on my knees and kiss the carpet. And he thought that was funny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly?
So really, my journey just starts as a resident. As somebody who spends a lot of time moving around the community, volunteering, sometimes with organized engagement, like as a member of Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful. And then it's really extended through more than 20 years in public education in Athens-Clarke County, where I was fortunate to be part of seeing the high school graduation rate move from just above 50% to almost 80% over the course of the 15 years I worked with high school students here. to now 15 years of policymaking as an Athens-Clarke County Commissioner and as your mayor for the last 4 years, in which we've seen unprecedented challenges, but we've seen also unprecedented benefits, including as the urbanized community with the lowest COVID mortality rate, and we've seen our highest level of development activity per dollar happen ever in the history of this county.
Thank you. Maura?
Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'd like to thank my brother also, who's here tonight with me. It's the first time. I'm originally from Nicaragua. I grew up in business. My father was an immigrant, 7 children, lack of education, lack of language. We had many challenges, but I grew up in business and I was CEO, CFO at the age of 20. I bought my first house in my 20s. I own property here in Athens. I've been living here 15 years. I'm a farmer. I'm a mother. I've worked in mortgages, helping people get homes, home ownership, build their wealth. I've worked at the Department of Labor, helping people get jobs, listening to their stories, their struggles, their challenges. I've worked in the community, helping people do modifications, translations, tutoring for children in math, and helping undocumented people learn English and prepare others for U.S. citizenship. So I feel I have a diverse background. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I will hand it over to Dania Kalaji from the Red and Black.
Hi everyone, as Spencer said, my name is Dania, and I will be asking questions about the relations between UGA and Athens-Clarke County. So my first question, a Linnentown report was released earlier this year, and $5 million is owed in reparations. The city has been leading this. How would you attempt to work with the university on this, and is there some sort of end goal? Kelly, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much. I've been proud to be part of the opportunity to engage with residents of the urban renewal zones in Athens, of which there were 2. We're really sitting in one right now. The other one was the one that you just referenced that included Linnentown along Baxter Street. And what I would encourage everybody to do is go online, and you can find hours of contemporaneous video from the early 1960s, because of course that was when the University of Georgia integrated, and you saw Charlene Hunter Galt and Hamilton Holmes become students for the first time. And sadly, you'll hear many occasions of local residents and university administrators and General Assembly members decrying having black people on campus. So when I think about the links between UGA's publicly acknowledged history and the history that we want to engage them with, I think we look to what they've already done. Already have they acknowledged that these were poor activities in the past, and we need to take the same path when considering these urban renewal zones in which both the city and UGA were involved.
Thank you. Now, Mara, let's hear from you.
First of all, I sympathize with Ms. Hattie Whitehead. Linnentown, as many other issues pertaining to the Black community, have been politicized, when in fact it is the voice of those who have been directly affected that should be heard, and it is their right to pursue whatever solutions they feel is best for them, and not what others or interest groups want for them. I hope a fair outcome will succeed as Linnentown progresses.
Thank you. And finally, Fred.
Thank you. I believe dealing with Linnentown is uncovering the past that doesn't need to be uncovered. Things happened at that time, and during that time that happened. We can't go uncover every wrongdoing that may have happened since the start of time. I would like to mention that I had some relatives that were made to jump off of a pirate ship, and I'm after those pirates. Just kidding, but digging up in the past is something that doesn't need to happen. I think at the time people were monetarily and legibly taken care of. 60% of the occupants there were white. It is not a white-black issue here, but we like to make that of because it brings a lot of people to the press club. Thank you.
Thank you. My second question. As the university enrollment increases each year, how do you balance the needs of the largest economic supplier with the needs of Athens residents? Mara, we'll start with you.
Can you clarify in terms of what?
UGA funds most things into the city, whether that is game days or other university relations.
Oh, relations? Or I'm not getting the question. I'm sorry, I can't hear you too
So
well.
the University of Georgia is the largest economic supplier into the city of Athens.
Oh, economic supplier, you said?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that word. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Can you finish the question, sorry?
Yes, so how do you balance the needs of the largest economic supplier with the needs of Athens residents as enrollment increases?
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Well, in terms of economics, I'm a big believer in self-employment. I've spoken about that a lot. I believe that if there are no jobs, when I first came here to Athens, I couldn't find a job. It was very hard. I went around and I tried my resume. I think I have good skills and everything, but I went through that difficulty of not being able to find a job. It's very tough. So my husband and I started our own business here in Athens, and that helped. And we've been doing our business for a while now. But I find that jobs is really key. Self-employment, preparation with skills. One of the big things that my family has always been able to overcome the economic challenges has been through skills and self-employment. So I'm a big person in reference to self-employment and getting jobs here to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred?
Me.
Yes.
Well, to commend the University of Georgia, I think is why we are here. It affects Athens so much. The University of Georgia was chartered and established prior to assigning the city the name of Athens. It was a community around the University of Georgia, and it has maintained that and become that. The University of Georgia has grown much more greatly than Athens, I would say. It's an international college. This is an international city. We're not just a small town in Georgia. We're in the news thanks to our football team, and we're close to the Atlanta airport, but we've done a lot here and we have a lot more to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly?
So as we see the university population grow, obviously what we want to do is continue to work in common cause and find those sweet spots where the community benefits just as the university community benefits. And so I've had the pleasure of working with public service and outreach units to do volunteer work in the community, utilizing the pool of very eager student labor on campus. I've been able to take part in some of the research and development activities that have landed here in the private sector in Athens-Clarke County. 2 employers, over 200 each, just in the last couple of years. BioPlanet and RWDC took advantage of technology invented on campus to land here. And I also think we need to completely engage with the university population so that they see Athens as more than just the university and understand the great benefits of being part of the community at large, like I think many of us did when we were young people and got to know the communities where we lived and went to college.
Thank you. My third question. What do you think about the current relationship between the city government and the UGA administration? And what would you do, if anything, to adjust that partnership? Fred?
Well, I happen to think of that question ironically today. When I was in university and a student was caught misbehaving, they had a committee of students to try that student, listen to the problems, and come back with the punitive action if one was validated or instituted. And students were often more harsh on the student than was the administration. Students are going through a phase of life. It's not adolescence, and it may not even be adulthood, even though the legal age has been obtained. But to see the students go through that phase, it's something we've all gone through if we're over 25.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly?
So I think this is the first drinking establishment in which we've had one of these forums, so I encourage everybody to develop your own drinking game. So candidate answers the question asked, one shot, candidate does not two. Ultimately, the university administration, like all large institutions, is multifaceted, right? And so, a great component of that's here in Athens, I have a wonderful and ongoing and strong relationship with. And so what I've done is both through sort of formal engagement and sometimes informal, just getting coffee with the president or some of the vice presidents on campus, look to those things we had in common. There's obviously a political element to the university administration as well. We know that. The governor appoints members of the Board of Regents, and those individuals appoint the chancellor. And in this hyper-polarized time, there's going to be some friction there. There's no doubt.
Thank you. Mara?
Having attended a couple of mayor and commissioner meetings in reference to very different subjects that relate to UGA and the local government, I think that the relationship is somehow broken a little bit. There has been some hostility from some commissioners towards UGA. I know UGA is very concerned with the student crime. They don't think that there are things that have been addressed by the local government. There have been issues in reference to fees and things like that. I know that there was a time when UGA asked for the right-of-way to install communication fiber, and the local government told them no. They actually had to pay, I think, $250,000 to get something going. So I know the relationship is somewhat broken, and I would try to meet with the UGA administrators frequently, because I think there needs to be discussion. You need communication with an institution that's so large. So, but going forward, I would like the mayor to, have a relationship with UGA, because I think as one of the biggest institutions here, we do need to have discussions with them. So.
Thank you. My final question. A growing number of UGA students seek mental health resources in Athens, resources that are run dry or aren't available. How would you work with UGA and the local community to service this need for college students and local youth as well? Kelly.
No, it's such an important question right now for college-age students, for older adults, for younger teens as well. We're really in an epidemic of behavioral health need right now. And so I'm proud of the work that the Commission and I have done to advance the needs for behavioral health services in Athens. We put a multi-million-dollar expansion of inpatient beds for advanced behavioral health services on the last SPLOST referendum. We've put into place ongoing behavioral health services for those who are suffering needs. We've also reached out beyond the community, recognizing that this is a regional challenge. And in the same way that people are coming from multiple counties to our emergency rooms, they're coming for our behavioral health resource needs as well. We've recently expanded the Athens Neighborhood Health Center that's going to include some counseling and behavioral health services. I could continue to see that rolling so that it includes their downtown center as well, very close to UGA.
Thank you. Mara?
Well, I would love to create a division specifically for the youth within the local government to address issues pertaining to, drugs and gangs, which is going around in Athens. And that division also to have like parent resources for youth that have problems with these. I would love to have in town meetings that I that I would like to establish between the community, UGA students and administration, and this local youth division that I would love to create, to have that kind of conversation where you can discuss the resources so they are not double resources that people are not using. You want to make sure that the resources that you are using are available, but also that people know about it. I know there are a lot of resources that sometimes people say, well, I never knew that existed, and I hear that a lot. So I think a great portion has to be to get the word out there and to connect people, local youth, UGA students, and UGA students and administration together, working together.
Thank you. Fred?
It seems that we are in a crisis. However, look back in our history, and every generation met some great crisis, I would say. Whether it was the virus of the pandemic recently, or tetanus, or smallpox, or some of the other rat-transmitted diseases. This country has done a great effort and accomplishment to deal with this virus the way we have. And mental health is a condition that we all have. Sometimes it's mental healthy or mentally unhealthy. We can support each other and establish procedures and committees to deal with each person individually.
Thank you. Now I will turn it over to DJ Simmons from the Athens Banner-Herald.
So I will be asking questions regarding homelessness, police, and crime. My first question: homelessness is a challenge cities across the country face. What do you see as the major driving factor for homelessness right here in Athens, and what tangible action would you take to address it? We'll start with Ms. Mara.
I think the major problem is that we have a lot of services that are being provided, not just to the people in Athens, but outside of Athens. So we have seen an influx of people looking for benefits that don't live here in Athens. And there have been people that have been dropped off, and this has created, almost like a huge problem, because you have people living in the woods, and you don't really see these people. You see sometimes people in the city downtown, but there's a greater population in the woods. So that is creating. I think that a solution would probably be to begin with, to discuss it with the state, to decentralize this kind of services, to maybe stop or slow down the influx so that we can address our resources to the people that are struggling here in Athens. And that would be a way to start, getting help out there, since 60%, they say about 60% are people with mentally severe problems, and then you have another with addiction, and then another percentage of people who have fallen into financial situations. So we do have a big problem with that.
Mr. Moorman?
About 20 years ago, we had a local politician who became a federal judge, and his mantra and efforts at the time were to end homelessness or end hunger in Athens in 5 years. Well, he did not accomplish that, nor will we accomplish it in the next 5 years. Many of these people come to Athens because it's a free place to live, quote unquote. You get everything you need here: health care, lunch on every day at 11. You can sleep in front of the church. You can sleep on the sidewalks. We have some counties around here who give their homeless people a free one-way bus ticket to Athens, Georgia. And that's something that apparently a lot of people don't recognize here. You invite a lot of homeless people and they will come.
Mr. Girtz?
Sadly, I'll share, DJ, that every year of the 20 years I spent working with middle school and high school kids, some of my students were living in cars and on the street. We know that this has been a dynamic that has been a challenge, and in fact, it has gotten more challenging, kind of back to Dania's earlier conversation about behavioral health needs. Really, we're seeing this driven by a couple things. We're seeing driven by behavioral health needs with co-occurring substance abuse challenges, and we're seeing it driven by the difficulty in finding affordable housing. So nationally, you can look at everywhere where you've seen a limit in the affordable housing stock, and you've seen then an increase in homelessness. So what do we need to do? We need to increase the stock of affordable housing. We need to make sure that we're offering very strong case management to steer people toward resources, and we do need to work with our neighbors. And so I'm glad that for the first time ever in the last year, Gwinnett County has shelter beds, a county of almost 1 million people. And so we need to make sure that those resources are available in every community through the region.
For my second question, currently ACC has approved $50,000 for a strategic plan on homeless services and has implemented a government-sanctioned encampment. Why do you approve or disapprove of this method? And if you disapprove, how do you plan to address homelessness as mayor? I'll start with you, Mr. Moorman.
Well, homelessness, I will say that downtown Athens, a lot of the people that pawn for money or go up to students and visitors with their sign wanting money are not homeless. They have a place to live. That's their second job. Their first one is to get a government paycheck and the benefits from the government. I think they have invaded our downtown. They make the older population who is distraught about coming downtown and seeing a man circle a power pole 10 times in some psychotic demeanor. They get scared about coming downtown. And then the parking department has outlawed a car to park downtown till 10 p.m. at night. You miss that first parking ticket time and you get a $50 ticket, if I'm correct. They're running people out of downtown, students and others.
All right. Mr. Girtz?
I'm glad to be part of creating a magnetic, vibrant downtown that's seen more residents than it ever has and more business activity than it ever has. And I'm also glad that we are taking seriously the human needs around homelessness. The name of the camp on Barber Street is the First Step Camp, and it's important to recognize that title because in fact it is just a first step of many that are needed. We talked about some of them earlier, that very strategic case management, development of affordable housing in the rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing arenas. And what we know is that there's always going to be some churn in the population as people are facing new challenges. But what we need to do is have a strategic plan that gets to them as quickly as they exhibit challenge. Because the longer somebody is on the street, the more they're without resources, the more challenged they're going to be and the further they're going to have drifted from shore. So we need to hang on to people and make sure we get them to services as quickly as possible.
Ms. Mayoral?
In reference to that tent encampment, I originally did not see that as a solution because it costs $2.5 million for, I would say, 25 to 30 tents and maybe 50 homeless people. While the homeless are still mostly in the woods. I did visit the homeless encampment. I really didn't see that many people there. I know that there are no services provided there and no clear pathway to recovery or readmission to society. So I find that as a huge problem based on $2.5 million being spent on this camp. I do think that we need to develop sustainable solutions to reduce this problem. And I would work with the state to provide long-term solutions for additional mental health issues. When I went down there to see the camp, I actually went to other nonprofits to find out. Sorry.
Now we move to my third question. What specific strategies for crime reduction are you interested in and look to implement if elected? I'll start with you, Mr. Girtz.
Thanks for that, DJ. I just do want to correct kind of what one of the other candidates said a moment ago. There are services directly accessible at the First Step encampment, and so Advantage Behavioral goes to support the clients there. Specific strategies for crime reduction. The first thing that we always need to be thinking about when we're thinking about crime reduction is crime prevention. So we need to say to ourselves, all right, well, who are primarily those who are criminal actors who become incarcerated? Largely it's young people. It's about the 16 to 25-year-old population. A judge told me not long ago that if he could keep young people out of trouble until they turn 25, that would be great. And so we need to spend a lot of our energy on youth development to make sure people are engaged in positive pro-social activities and don't become involved in crime. And what we also need to do is make sure that we're using technology, using the camera apparatus that we have, and using some of the other license plate-based technologies so that we find people as soon as we possibly can so they don't commit additional crimes.
Ms. Mara?
Okay, going back to the services at the First Step camp, that gets sent to Advantage, and they may or may not help them, and then they will get returned back to the homeless encampment, back to square one, so there's no clear pathway. I spoke to the gentleman at the camp. Speaking in reference to crime, I spoke to somebody today who used to live in Nellie B, and he said that they had a program, community policing, where the police worked with them in reference to how to work with the community, because sometimes there are communities that have special problems that the police may not understand. So what they did was they worked directly with the police to get a certain amount of police officers out to these neighborhoods, and they would have meetings with the community, and the community would tell the police what they expected from the police. So there was a relationship between community and the police. They asked questions, they sat down, and they talked about it.
Mr. Moorman?
Crime is quite a problem in most everywhere. I think to solve a crime, or to prevent crime, efforts need to be made about who committed it, why did they commit it. We've got a DA that I don't agree with. She has decided that if you get a minor nonviolent charge, you don't owe any bail money. You can get out just by telling them you want them to open the door. I've been accused of being military. People ask me often, was I in the military? And I tell them no, but I guess some of my efforts would be consistent with a military attitude of some degree.
For my last question, while the mayor does not manage the police force in Athens, the position will have to work closely with the new police chief. And while some Athenians have a strong relationship with ACC police, others may not. As mayor, what approach would you take to improve community relations with police? I'll start with you, Ms. Mara.
I think one of the key factors, in my opinion, would be to give support to the police. I think there is a lack of support by the local government for the police department, and I think that brings morale down. And morale is super important when it comes to the police. They haven't had, for example, there's been times where they've asked for safety equipment and it hasn't been provided to them. So I know that some police officers have bought their own life vests because the type of bullets that are out there right now do not cover for the original vests that they had. So being very concerned with their life, they have bought their own. So I think a big part of that is to make it vocal and to show that there is support financially and vocally for the police department.
Mr. Moorman?
Well, we've had a few commissioners who want to defund the police. I think that's far from what reality should be. Every year they'll need a greater budget, and that's a job I am glad competent people have those jobs. Would it be something I want for myself? I don't think so. I'd hate to wear that bulletproof vest all the time. And we just need to identify who is having this surge of criminality. I think invaders come here from Atlanta or other cities and break into 20 cars in one night and drive 15 of them off. We have a problem here.
Mr. Girtz?
And so, DJ, I know that your question was about improving community relations with the police. And ultimately, what you want in the police force, just like the entire county employment apparatus all around, is for the police force to represent the community, to look like the community. And so I have proposed in the coming year's budget that we have a cadet program so that we introduce young people in their teen years to the criminal justice world as an employment track, so that we get kids who are coming out of Cedar Shoals and Clark Central, and they're interested in going into the police force, and they know the community, they know the neighborhoods. And obviously we systemically need to make sure we're putting our police officers in positions where they can engage with people on the neighborhood level. And obviously that's easier when you have a fully staffed police department, and I've sought to do that by consistently raising pay for police officers and making sure benefits like take-home cars are things that are available to all of our police force, not just some of them.
And now I will turn it over to Blake Auld from Flagpole.
Smattering of applause.
Hi, everyone. My questions will be about the areas of housing and transportation. First question, 25 people died in car crashes in Athens last year. That's up from 15 in 2020 and 11 in 2019. With Athens-Clarke County government currently revising its complete streets policy, what would you do to make our streets safer? And we'll direct this to Dr. Moorman first, please.
Well, one thing I would do is outlaw those earplugs. Many people stick them in their ears and walk to a crosswalk and don't even look for a vehicle. That's not in good keeping with staying out of the way of a motor vehicle. The speed here is higher than it should be on most streets. Cars try to weave in and weave out, and when the lights turn green, it's who's going to make it ahead of the others. There's a lot of basic laws and rules that could be enforced and more evenly implemented, and would make a difference in the deaths. Helmets, wear your helmets, even when you drive a car.
Mayor Girtz?
So one of the things I've had the benefit of learning from people who are in the engineering realm, who do safety work for a living, is that if you want a street to be safe, you have to build it to be safe. You can put any number of signage or any number on a speed limit sign that you would like to. But if that road is designed as a dangerous road, it's going to be dangerous. So what I've done in this coming year's budget is introduced a Vision Zero coordinator to do the engineering so that we get safer streets for all users, for cyclists, for motorists, and for pedestrians. And I've consistently advocated for a multimodal support of our transportation system so that if you're using any of those means to get around, this is going to be a safer place with more accessibility for you.
And Ms. Zúñiga?
Well, I do believe that enforcements of law are necessary, and I do think that signage as well is important. I think there's a lot of places where there's not clear signage, and actually the local government is not keeping up with the with the maintenance of some signage. So I think those things are important.
All right, thank you. Also on the ballot, May 24th, along with the mayor's race, is a referendum on continuing a 1% sales tax for transportation called T-Splost. And so my question, one of the things that will specifically be funded by T-Splost is continuing making Athens Transit fare-free. So do you support T-Splost, and do you support continuing fare-free transit? And we'll go to Mayor Girtz first on this.
Yes, I wholeheartedly encourage everybody in this room to vote in the affirmative for the T-Splost referendum in May. It does a multitude of things to improve the quality of life down to the neighborhood level. There are neighborhoods that are going to be supported through this T-Splost, like East Athens and North Athens, that have never gotten their due, that finally are going to see some new benefits. And I'm proud to have helped arrange that program. And I do support the fare-free transit program. You know, we should think of transit like we think of access to a sidewalk. It's something for the public to use that in fact does enhance safety, and it enhances the economic vitality of the community, because it means that people can get to work, they can get to school, and they can get to grocery stores. So I'm excited that we now, in the time that we've introduced fare-free transit, have been joined by other cities across the country like Kansas City.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Zúñiga?
While I do think the concept of T-Splost is a good idea and that it would go for good purposes, I don't think that it's being applied to things that people need. And this is something I hear a lot from the community. It's the wants versus the needs, the priorities that are made for the community. There's a lot of things like pavements, sidewalks, and street lights and sewers that I hear people saying that they've been paying their 1 cent tax for many years and it has not come to their neighborhood. But there are other things that have been done that don't necessarily address their problems. So a lot of people like the concept of the T-Splost if they were to see it applied to their neighborhoods, and there has been a lack of that.
All right, Dr. Moorman?
Well, T-Splost is a tax that is more predominantly it more predominantly influences lower income earners, because part of their money is spent and then it is taxed. I think that's a way to get free money to do what the legislators of the tax system want to get. Free buses don't make the sense to me. I mean, I also see buses and they've covered up the glass window with blackness, so you can't see that there's only 3 people on that bus instead of the 40 that it seats. Huh. Thank you.
All right, and can I just go back to Ms. Zúñiga real briefly on the fare-free transit? Yes or no to that? Fare-free transit?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you too well.
Fare-free transit?
Fare-free transit?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes or
What?
no? Are
Yes
you
or
in
no?
favor of fare-free transit?
Is it just a yes or no kind of question? Because I
Yeah, I
don't
don't
think
think
it's a black and
you
white
addressed that in your
issue.
answer earlier, so I just want to give you a chance to respond to whether you support
Well,
fare-free transit.
it's not a yes or no. I think we have to see if
Okay,
it sustains
30
itself.
seconds.
I mean, ridership has gone down according to the manager's report that was out. It has gone down by 1,000 from February to March. So we have to look at the data and see if it pays for itself, because if it doesn't, then I wouldn't think so. But if it does, then it would be worthwhile. But according to the data that just came out, 1,000 less people are riding it. So I don't know what to say about that. You'd have to make your own conclusion.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to housing, one of the reasons that's been identified for the affordable housing problem in Athens is a limited supply of housing, but often we see in rezoning cases in particular that residents resist more density in single-family neighborhoods. So would your higher priority be lowering housing costs by building more housing stock or protecting neighborhoods from development? And Ms. Zúñiga, you're first on this.
I would resist density. And I say that because we can build more stock outside You know, we can go out. Most of the housing that people want to get going is in high density places anyway, because infrastructure already exists there. But we can really go out more and not have so much density. On the east side, for example, the community that's there, when we have sat down, we hear plenty of things going on that, you know, tiny homes are going to go to our area. You know, you could have like 12 tiny homes and like half an acre. You know, who really wants that? You know, that while you can go out further and invest a little bit more money. And I know there's going to be the argument of more infrastructure is more money, but if you're, you know, if you want to invest in more housing, you have to go outside, you know. And as far as more stock, you could do that more, going more to the outskirts than just keeping in the highly density areas.
Okay, thank you. And now, Dr. Moorman, please.
I'm not sure that the numbers we project are true about the extreme poverty that exists in Athens-Clarke County. 127,000 residents and more than 30,000 students. Do they measure students as having no income, and that brings the average income way down? Somehow I think that is the case. When that student gets his money from mom and dad in Buckhead, Georgia, he's still homeless or has no income. How can you cure, the lowness of the number of housing? That's certainly not in the interest of Athens-Clarke County. Build more free homes so more people can come here. Send them here on a one-way bus ticket, and we'll find a place for them. Thank you.
All right, as a reminder, the question is about density versus protecting neighborhoods. Mayor Girtz.
I couldn't remember, was that one or two drinks for the answering the question? I think, Blake, that you oftentimes see these conversations sort of being these either or kind of polar black or white sort of discussions, but really you can much more gracefully introduce density into just about every neighborhood in town. And other communities have demonstrated this, whether that's through auxiliary dwelling units where you have mother-in-law living in a small home in your backyard, or whether that's in introduction of duplexes and triplexes that don't look any different than a single family home. So I think we can do some careful and well-crafted introduction of additional density into single-family neighborhoods, and particularly those larger single-family tracts that haven't been built out yet, like we have many of off Newton Bridge Road, off Jefferson Highway and Epps Bridge Parkway. And we can also take advantage of more of the multifamily housing redevelopment that we've introduced quite a bit of in recent years.
All right, thank you. And my final question is about affordable housing. There's been a lot of conversation about affordable housing during this campaign. Much of the focus has been on rental properties and rising rents, but the cost of buying a home is also skyrocketing. So how can the local government encourage home ownership? Dr. Moorman?
Well, I don't know that Obama had it right when he felt the goal of every American family was to own a home. I believe his actions put our country into a housing crisis in reverse. More homes were built than people could pay for. People would walk away from their home when they got a job cut back because they wanted to buy a Sea-Doo and go to the beach for the weekend. I don't know, in other countries I've seen where 20 people sleep in one bedroom. Is that really the correct way to do it? Probably not. But one house to every woman with 2 children or 3 children, I don't know that that's something the state needs to provide. We do have problems here.
All right, thank you. Mayor Girtz?
So when we think about home ownership, We know that there's almost like a ladder of steps that reaches to home ownership. The first many places I lived in as an adult after I was out of my parents' homes were rental properties. And so what we need to do is we need to work with residents to set up those steps. And so some of those steps are higher wage employment. Some of those steps are credit counseling and making sure that people understand what they can do to positively prepare themselves for home ownership. And so it's not just from rental market of any variety to home ownership. It's really getting people prepared so that they can have a down payment and they can be set up for the long term to be a homeowner. You know, we are lucky to have a number of affordable housing partners in this community, obviously Habitat, the Land Trust, and Athens Housing Authority, and all of them have some of these credit preparation programs because what they also want to do is move people from the rental market into home ownership, and I think we can achieve that.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Zúñiga.
Well, I definitely think that wages is one of the most important things. I know that for 32 years since the government was unified, I saw a video where some local officials were talking about affordable housing. And I said, it's 1990 and they were talking about affordable housing, and it's 32 years later and we're still talking about affordable housing. The stock of the houses. And I'm thinking, well, you know, the problem really has to be in wages. People are not making living wages here. When there have been expansion of some businesses and some businesses have come in, they've been for the higher educated people. Therefore, jobs in the bioresearch, you know, but it's not for everybody else. So we definitely need to concentrate on one, wages, and the other thing would be preparation. Definitely preparation for buying a home is important.
All right, thank you. And now I will turn it over to Spencer for audience questions.
Right, so we've received a few audience questions, but as I'm going, if anyone has any final ones, you're welcome to pass them along to Charlotte up here in the front. She can come around with more papers. You can get, I think we have, yeah, if y'all could pass them up to her actually, because she's also our timekeeper, that would be great. All right. All right, so this question from the audience asks, how will you help those, how will you help reintegrate those leaving jail or prison into the local community? And first we will go to Kelly.
Thanks for that, whoever provided the question. In the job that I had immediately prior to working as mayor, part of my role was supporting evening high school programs in 3 state prisons. So that population of people who are moving out of prison into the workforce is very close to my heart. And one of the things that we can do is, as an employer ourselves, we can take advantage of a program that the State Department of Corrections runs called the Transition Center Program. And it's something of a halfway house environment in which you've moved out of formal prison and you're about to move kind of into a fully self-sufficient environment, but you're working for pay. And we can also partner with the Chamber of Commerce and other economic development engines in the community. Obviously, we're in a really tight labor market now, so it's an ideal time in order to help those returning citizens.
All right, now we will go to Mara.
Well, I definitely think that preparation is necessary to integrate people back into society. That would definitely be job skills. And one of those places that I've looked and I like is Career Academy. I know my son went there and, you know, he was being shown skills, how to interview, resume writing, and I thought, man, this is really great, you know, to get a young person prepared like that. You can also use that same concept for people that are coming out and trying to integrate back into society. Same concept, it's really fantastic.
All right, Fred?
Some of you may remember a Rolls-Royce hit a Mercedes-Benz last week. and that was very, no one was hurt very much. It was a plumber hit an electrician. I'm just kidding you. That's an inference about the car they drive. We need more electricians and HVAC men and women. Giving a free college diploma to a lot of people who never really studied in high school may not be the best choice. Athens-Tech is a great university here, and it's probably underutilized, and people may not be coerced or guided into that program as they should be. Thank you.
All right, and our final audience question here is, what do you believe the duties of mayor are? And we will go to Fred first.
For me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And we can finish this seminar after I answer this question. Another joke. Mr. Girtz, I think, we've got some accomplished people here who want this office. And I think the mayor is he is a delegator. He or she is a delegator. They identify problems and they appoint a committee to deal with it. And when decision opportunities arise, they have a vote, or he or she makes the final decision. No one is right on everything, but some of us are more right than wrong.
All right, Kelly?
So obviously the Charter of the Unified Government lays out the formal responsibilities of the mayor, right? And they include moderating the meetings, they include setting the agenda for those meetings and presenting a budget to the county commission and the public, which I did just this Friday. But more broadly, when you're the mayor, you have the great pleasure of, in some ways, being sort of the funnel and the filter for the entire community's thoughts about how to best craft a vision that really is going to embrace everyone, from young to old, from all walks of life and all backgrounds, and then participating in making sure that vision actually hits the ground. And that means you have to participate in collaboration with other community institutions and obviously other levels of government as well, and the private sector and the nonprofit sector. So you take in all of these influences and work with all of these actors to make sure that we're seeing great things happen for the people in Athens-Clarke County.
All right, Mara?
Well, they talked about the duties already, so I guess I can't get into them like that. But one important one would be that people see the mayor as the representative of the local government. They see him as, or she, as the head of the government. So you have to represent in a way that will show concern to the people. You have to go out and actually speak to the community. You know, I think that's a big concern that I've heard from people lately in the past month that I've been going out to different neighborhoods. And they have told me, we would love if you keep doing that as mayor. We would love for you to come down to our community and ask us what our concern is. And, you know, and this comes not only from businesses, but teachers, police officers, you know, mothers, fathers. They tell me, we wish that would be highlighted as part of his duty for the mayor, you know. So I think I will do that more if I become mayor.
All right. Thank you to all of our candidates for engaging in us. Yeah.